The last sacred fury of the Vikings, Battle of Stamford Bridge, 25th September 1066. In the thick morning mist of September 1066, on the narrow banks of the River Derwent at Stamford Bridge in East Riding of Yorkshire, history was changing forever. This was not merely a battle, but the final sacred moment of the entire Viking Age, where warriors offered their blood to Odin, where Valhalla opened its gates, and where a lone berserker stood as the last guardian between two worlds. The camera, low and trembling with handheld realism, glides slowly through the dense white fog, past the proud dragon-headed longships that still carried the sharp scent of smoke from their victory at Fulford just days earlier. Harald Hardrada, the giant king who towered over 2 meters tall, with his long braided beard and heavy bearskin cloak, stands motionless on the shore, gazing southward with eyes filled with destiny. He had served in the elite Varangian Guard, conquered the walls of Constantinople, and survived countless wars. Now, at 51 years old, he believed with absolute certainty that the Allfather would lead him to Valhalla through English spears. Standing beside him was Tostig Godwinson, the treacherous brother of King Harald Godwinson of England. The two men had formed a dangerous alliance. Tostig would reclaim the wealthy earldom of Northumbria, while Hardrada would seize the crown of all England. But the gods, it seemed, were whispering an entirely different fate. The night before the battle, beneath a cold gray sky, the Norse warriors gathered around a makeshift altar of stone and wood. A powerful black bull was led forward, its eyes reflecting the dancing flames. The chieftain raised Gungnir, the sacred spear of Odin, and drove it deep into the animal's neck with one mighty thrust. Hot blood erupted in a crimson arc, soaking the damp earth and filling the night air with its metallic scent. One by one, the warriors stepped forward, smearing the warm blood across their faces, their axe blades, and their wooden shields. In low, reverent voices, they chanted the ancient prayer, "Odin, Allfather, accept this blood. Choose us for Valhalla. Grant us the sacred fury that no enemy can withstand." All around them, the wind howled through the tall grass like the distant, haunting laughter of the Valkyries selecting the slain. The camera moves in a slow, solemn dolly around the circle of bearded faces, their eyes burning with firelight and divine anticipation. Some men wore the skins of bears or wolves, the legendary Ulfhednar and Berserkers. They had fasted for days, chewed the edges of their shields until ragged, and breathed in deep ritual rhythm so the wild spirit of the beast could completely possess them. This was no drug-induced madness. It was an ancient, sacred rite, the way mortal men could become one with Odin, the one-eyed god and master of battle frenzy. The following morning, September 25th, the air felt strangely warm for late autumn. Believing they had come only to negotiate with the city of York, the Vikings had left most of their heavy armor on the ships. Nearly 9,000 warriors stood exposed on the wide meadow, protected only by wool tunics and round shields. Then, from the south, came the thunder of hooves and marching feet. Harald Godwinson had performed a near-impossible forced march from London in just 9 days. An English army of approximately 15,000 men emerged like ghosts from the mist. Harald sent a single rider to meet his brother. Their exchange was short and bitterly sharp. "Tostig, you may regain your earldom, but your ally, Harald Hardrada, shall have only 6 feet of English soil, or perhaps a little more, for he is a very tall man." Hardrada threw back his head and laughed, his booming voice echoing across the field. "So that is Harald Godwinson? A brave man indeed." Yet in his heart, he knew the battle had already begun. The camera tracks forward with quiet tension as the English forces advanced toward the narrow wooden bridge spanning the fast, ice-cold River Derwent. The bridge was so narrow that only 2 men could cross side by side, a deadly natural trap. Then the nameless hero appeared, a colossal berserker, bare skin draped over his massive shoulders, fiery red beard flowing wild, wielding an enormous double-bladed axe, stepped alone onto the center of the bridge and blocked the entire English army. He carried no shield and wore no armor, only the pure, holy fury of Odin. His axe swung in devastating arcs, metal crashed violently. Englishmen fell from their horses and tumbled into the river, their blood turning the water red. Dozens fell, then nearly 40 beneath the relentless power of his blade. A savage, inhuman roar tore from his throat, not the voice of a man, but the deep growl of a wild bear. The berserker bit hard into his shield, eyes blood red, body shaking in divine trance. The Valkyries watched from above. Valhalla waited. The English advance was completely stopped. Hardrada seized those precious minutes to rally his men, but the bridge remained too narrow. Finally, one courageous English warrior hid inside a barrel, floated beneath the bridge, and thrust his spear upward through a gap in the planks, piercing the berserker's belly. A final, earth-shaking roar of agony rang out. The giant fell. The bridge was open. The camera drops low, becoming chaotic and handheld as the English army surged across like a breaking wave. The true battle erupted across the open meadow. Unarmored but fearless, Hardrada charged at the front. He swung his axe and sword with legendary strength, singing an old war song to Odin as he fought. Then a single arrow flew true and pierced his throat. The mighty Viking king staggered and collapsed, blood pouring from the wound, his eyes still fixed on the sky as if he could already see the golden gates of Valhalla opening. With his dying breath he whispered, "I go first, you will follow." Tostig continued fighting bravely, but the reinforcements from Rickall arrived too late and exhausted. They too were cut down. As the sun sank, the green meadow had transformed into a vast sea of blood. Thousands of Viking bodies lay scattered across the field. Only a few hundred survivors managed to swim back to their ships under the cover of darkness. In the blood-red light of sunset, Harold Godwinson stood silently among the corpses, gazing down at the body of his own brother Tostig. He had won the battle, but the price was devastating. Just 3 weeks later, he himself would fall at Hastings against William the Conqueror. Yet on this day at Stamford Bridge, the Viking Age did not end in silence. It ended with the final sacred roar of a berserker, with rivers of blood offered to the Allfather, and with the eternal promise of Valhalla, that those who died gloriously in battle would rise again to fight beside Odin at Ragnarok. The camera slowly dollies backward from the battlefield, retreating through the thickening mist. The wind howled louder. The river Derwent flowed on, carrying blood and memory toward the sea. An era had closed forever, but its spirit, the sacred battle fury, the willingness to sacrifice everything for the gods, and the unshakable belief that death in combat was the gateway to eternal glory, would live on forever in the sagas, in the carved runestones, and in the memory of mankind. This is how the ancients truly saw the invisible world. This is the undying soul of the Vikings. Not conquest by iron and steel alone, but by unbreakable faith and